Many Jews at a certain point left Brooklyn, but thank God Lubavitch Chabad did not leave. The Rebbe, I believe, wanted everybody to stay, told them to stay. It turned out to be a very, very good advice. And today you have in Crown Heights, along Eastern Parkway, and the streets surrounding it, you have one of the great centers of Yiddishkeit, Chabad Lubavitch. And a lot of you know about this because we have a very good relationship with Rabbi Morozov in Valencia. Some of you know Rabbi Dov in Oxnard. So all of us have had a background with Chabad, but now we're here in the center of Chabad.
Anybody ever hear of Minnesota?
Yes. Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Colder there than here.
Yes.
And
I live there. I'm on shlichus there
Huh?
for the last 46, 47 years.
Louder.
Warming up. So what do you think of Rabbi Morozov? You can tell me.
Oh, he's
Oh,
delightful.
no.
He loves him.
We all love him.
He's a keeper.
Yes.
Yeah, we have
That's
a
good
very
to-
special relationship with Rabbi Morozov. As a matter of fact, he was looking for a place for Camp Gan Izzy, and he uses our synagogue's facilities for every summer for Camp Gan Izzy.
Nice.
We have a very nice working relationship, very close.
He brings the best speakers.
Yes, he does.
No, he hasn't brought me.
Well, I will tell him to make up for that when I see him next.
Have you got a business card we can give him?
I think Rabbi.
I just
Morozov
lost my
knows.
credit card.
You just probably can't afford it.
Oh, well,
That's probably it.
So what are the questions you're coming with? Because new questions will come up as the...
I think for a lot of our people, they know a little bit about Hasidism. They've heard about Chabad and Lubavitch, but a little explanation as to where it started, what Chabad is, why it's called Chabad, why it's called Lubavitch, maybe just a little history of the Chabad group.
Start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning.
Okay. You've heard of the Baal Shem Tov,
Yes.
who lived about 300 years ago in Russia, and he revolutionized Jewish thinking. And it spread so rapidly, without internet, without mass communication. In a very short time, 2/3 of all Jews in Russia, Poland, became Hasidim. It was controversial. There was a lot of resistance, strong resistance, because every traditional community resists change. Change is scary. And this was a pretty radical change in thinking, because the mitzvahs are the same, the tefillin are the same, Shabbat is the same, and so on and so forth. But the thinking was radically different, and it really, I think, reinvigorated Judaism for what was to come. And that the survival of Judaism after the Holocaust was to some degree due to that enthusiasm, that preparation. And the fact that it can be transplanted to America is also due to that, I guess, relevant and functional and wise and godly approach, so that it can work anywhere for anybody. So what was the philosophy? In very short thumbnail sketch, the philosophy was, we are not here for God to serve us, we are here to serve Him. It's a radical departure, because how do you serve Him? He needs nothing. So can we really serve Him? So if you keep all the commandments, you're doing for Him or you're doing it for yourself? And it turns out that all religions, I don't know how they began, but they all ended up self-serving. What will God do for me if I behave myself? I'll go to heaven, 72 virgins, all sorts of stuff.
Wait, is that us?
That's not us.
Ray's back there going.
Ray's like, I'm gonna change that. He's our comedian. Sort of.
So how do you switch that to I am here to do for him instead of him doing for me? Now it turns out that aside from the theology, the religious thinking, the simple human psychology, if I need him, then I'm needy. It puts me at a disadvantage. It also makes me a little narcissistic. I need. As long as we're talking about it, I also need something else. And then I need more than that. And then it just goes on, and you become more and more needy and more, I don't know, paralyzed, handicapped. But if we are here to serve him, instead of being needy, we see ourselves as needed. Wow, that's a completely different mentality. And looking at what's going on in the world today, this is the cure. Because as soon as you start talking about what I need, you're depressing me. As soon as I'm thinking of what I need, I'm getting depressed. Or narcissistic, which is probably the same thing. Two sides of the same coin. So let me tell you this incredible story. It illustrates the point very well. And by the way, the reason we have this talk, or whatever it is, before you go on the tour, is because if you want to understand the community, you have to understand the thinking, because the thinking creates this community. So here's the story. These two boys in Minneapolis attempted suicide. 14-year-old kids. One of them was being held in the state hospital for observation. Now, the sixth floor of the hospital is almost like a prison. It's dangerous people who are, being evaluated whether they should go to jail or go to treatment. So no one can visit there. So the mother of this boy calls me and says, "Would you please go visit him? Only clergy are allowed." I've never seen her. I don't know her. She doesn't know me. She needed a rabbi. Now, I've been up there for different occasions. Not a pleasant place. And the thought of a 14-year-old boy being there was, of course, I went. I got off the elevator just in time to see two nurses wrestle a guy to the floor and put him into handcuffs, and everybody else was standing around shouting like banshees. It was So I run off to the boy's room, thinking he's probably frightened. No, he's lying on his bed reading something, as if he were in camp. Not at all concerned with the screaming, I try to make some conversation. He's not interested. He just shrugs, doesn't even look up. I tried everything. Your mother is worried. Your mother asked me, "What are you doing? How? What should I tell her?" Not interested. So for about 10 minutes, I keep trying this, that, and the other. And finally, he says, "Why don't you go home? The chaplain has already been here." I said, "What did the chaplain say?" He says, "Something stupid." I said, "Really? What did he say that was stupid?" "He told me not to kill myself because God loves me." I said, "That's stupid?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "I agree. I can't imagine God loves you. You're an obnoxious kid." He looked up. And he says, "Yeah." I said, "God created you. He must need you for something. You're a piece of his puzzle. Without you, the whole puzzle is not complete. So he's kind of stuck with you. I don't think he likes you." he says, well, what if I don't want to do what he... I said, that's called freedom of choice. You have a choice. You can do it or not do it. Anyway, it didn't go very well after that. And I took his advice and I went home. But on the way home, I realized I had just discovered something really, really important. What's more necessary, more vital in a person's life? To be needed or to be loved? Listen to what happened here. The kid attempts suicide. Not because he has a miserable life, because he was bored. It was like an adventure. He got together with his friends, they're going to try this. What motivates that? The idea, the conviction, I'm not necessary. What's the difference? You live, you don't live, what's the difference? Who cares? Yeah, my mother will cry, she'll get over it. Something like that, right? So now, having made that statement by attempting suicide, I'm not necessary, the chaplain comes and says, don't do that, God loves you. And he says, that's stupid. What was he thinking? Why is it stupid? You can say, I don't believe you, he doesn't love me, I don't care. Why is it stupid? Sometimes wisdom comes from the most unlikely of places, right? Listen to what he is saying. I'm not necessary. I'm not needed. But I shouldn't kill myself because God loves me. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like the chaplain is saying, you're right. You're not necessary. But he loves you. And the boy is thinking, what am I, a pet? A gerbil? What isn't necessary but you love it? Chocolate? To a human being, that is a terrible insult. You're not necessary, you're just cute. So hang around as God's entertainment, because he loves you. He doesn't need you. And the boy is saying, that's stupid. I discovered we need to be needed much more than we need to be loved. Love is the icing on the cake, but being needed is the cake. And somehow we've gotten it backwards to where any thought of God is, well, you know, you're dependent on him, you need him. Without him, nothing's going to work. So God has become our valet, our butler. The Baal Shem Tov turned it around. He said, we're not here to get goodies from God. Not in this world, not in the world to come. What kind of thinking is that? It's so insulting to the human being. We're here, we have problems, we need help. That's it? That's the story of life? Maybe not in this world, but in the next world we're going to need help. Who did this to us? If God created the world before we existed, then who needs anything? Obviously he does. This is his plan, this is his need, this is his project. We're here to help him, to really serve him. Therefore, the only really important question in the world is how? What does he need? So imagine these guys come, these two guys knock at your door. You know these guys I'm talking about? Very nice, polite, well-dressed, respectful, gentle. They want to give you good news. Right? You know what happens if you cross a witness with a Unitarian? You know the Unitarians? You'll get the joke anyway. You cross a witness with a Unitarian, you get two guys who knock on your door for no reason. But these guys, they're bringing you good news, right? And what is the good news? You can get to heaven without keeping the commandments. What a deal. But that is so false. It sets up a false premise and then uses it like, the only reason you're doing any of these commandments is because you want to get to heaven, right? No. No, that was never right. And that's why in Judaism, heaven is no big deal. So the expression, he's in a better place, that's not Jewish. There's no better place. Going there is, if you have to go someplace, go there. But better is, don't go anywhere. Stay right here. Because here you can serve him, there he serves you. So it's nice to be served, but for a month, 2 months, enough already. We want to go back to work. So by keeping his commandments, we're bringing him down to earth, not getting ourselves into heaven. So if he wants to be on earth, why would I want to go to heaven? If he finds earth more interesting, well then so do I. So why would I want to go to heaven when he wants to come down to earth? So what does it mean bringing God down to earth? Making the world the kind of world that he envisioned. So he created the world for a purpose? Obviously. Is that purpose important to him? Must be. So we are here to help him with his purpose. Well, you see, that changes our psychology, it changes our lifestyle, it changes our vision, our philosophy, everything changes. So here's the point. You have a choice. The essence of the choice is you want to be needy or needed. That's it. That's the whole story of Judaism. Now, obviously, we are needy. And God should give us everything we need so that we can give him what he needs. It's like when you get a job, they got to give you an office, a desk, something, just so that you can work for the company. So God should give us everything we need, and we ask for it, and we daven for it, and so on. But that's so that we could serve him. It's not an end in itself. That's why Hasidim have a reputation of always being happy. Dennis Prager says, I travel all over the world, I meet these Chabad guys, they're all happy. How is that possible? I think they're killing off the sad ones. Or they're banishing them to Siberia or something. He also says, every place I go, I meet Chabad, they're all 40. Even if they're 20, they're 40. And even if they're 80, they're 40. Why is that? Because the essence of what motivates and what runs this community is the thinking. Chabad. Okay. So that's where the name comes from. In most of history, we adapted Judaism to our lives. If you live in this country, you practice Judaism that way. If you live in another country, you practice it. If you're a very aggressive, outgoing kind of a person, you do these things in Judaism. In other words, you create a Judaism out of your circumstances, which makes sense, right? Or even the expression, this is a Judaism works for me. There's the mistake. It works for me? No. I work for it. I'm needed. Right? So the Chabad system was, start with your thinking, because Chabad stands for wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Don't create a Judaism around your personality. Let Judaism give you a personality by giving you a philosophy, by giving you a mission, by putting you on a path. And then it will take you to places you didn't think you could go. So that's what's unique about this community. It was not fashioned around the people or around the country or around the place. It was fashioned by the thinking. And that's why you'll meet people from every background, from every country, all here. You walk up and down the street, you hardly hear any English. It's French, it's Hebrew, it's Russian. Because if you're starting with the thinking, well, then anybody can do it. And if the thinking is appealing and convincing, then everybody will do it. Secondly, if we are here to serve Him, let's say every Jew in the world was a perfectly good Jew. Is God content? No, because there's more to the world than Jews. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's true. So if the rest of the world is not doing what God needs, God is not content. So to some degree, we must take responsibility for that as well. Because if you want to give God a world that He enjoys, well, then everybody's got to pitch in. So you certainly reach out to your fellow Jew, you reach out to non-Jews, because God is waiting for His world, and He made Himself dependent on us. It's almost, you have to have a little rachmanis, you know. All these years, God is waiting, and we're not getting our act together. So the point of it is, to inspire ourselves, we have to feel not empowered, but needed. That's a much healthier psychology.
Good question, Rabbi. Because what you're saying, our dignity as human beings, as partners, as co-workers with Hashem. Oh, I'm sorry. I had a question for the
We were just having a little conversation.
A little conversation. What I notice is that to me, the amazing difference between Chabad and other, not only Hasidic, but other Orthodox groups is other groups are insular. Chabad, and I'm picking this up from your message, feels the impetus to go out not only to other Jews, but as you indicate, to the world. What made that difference in Chabad? Why was it that so many other traditional groups that said it's content for us to live our life and to do our thing and to forget about the world? Why did Chabad take the step of going out and changing the world, first with Jews and maybe then with others?
I'll tell you the truth, mostly it was boredom.
Fair.
You know, it all started in a little village called Lubavitch in White Russia. It's a tiny cow town. It was boring. Actually, the previous Rebbe had to leave Russia. Communists just wouldn't let him function. And he had to choose. He could have gone anywhere, right? He chose America. Part of the reason that he chose America is because Americans have a cosmopolitan attitude. Americans don't think parochial, they don't think small, they don't think local, they think global. Some people resent that, like the French. They don't like us. Who do you think you are just because you're an American? Hey, we think we're American, you know? So the Rebbe felt that we needed that. For too long, living in ghettos, it was doing things to our brain that was not good. We were starting to feel like an outsider, like an unwelcome addition to the world, instead of feeling like we are the world. So the Rebbe chose America in order for us to gain that broad-mindedness and open-mindedness. And why? Because, as we were saying before, if you want to give God what He needs, you can't do it living in a shtetl. Because it's not enough that your family is good, your community is good, your minyan, you know, you got your minyan. No, that's really not good enough. So we have to develop a language by which we can communicate the values of Torah in every language and to every person and to every... So we had a little cute incident. I was speaking about Mashiach to a women's group, about 70 women, right here in Crown Heights, local women. And I said that the idea of Mashiach is simply, when truth becomes clear, everybody sees it. When the secret is out, everyone will see it. So when God reveals himself, when God makes himself obvious, everyone will join. Everyone, without exception. Then there'll be peace in the world, right? So for some reason, I'm trying to bring out this point that you don't need any kind of preparation. You don't need to be a chacham, you don't need to be a tzaddik, you don't need to be special in order to see the truth when the truth is revealed. So I said when Mashiach comes, it means that the world has recognized, and everyone can see equally. So the simple person will see just as clearly as the tzaddik. And for some reason I said even the cannibal in the jungle will see the truth. One woman, after I finished, asks me to step outside. We got to talk. She says, I'm from the jungle. And I thought, ooh, I offended somebody here. Not at all. She's from New Guinea. And she went online and she heard some of these talks, because this is all going to go online, right? She started listening to other rabbis and Torah and Judaism, and all her friends started listening. So there's a whole community of people in New Guinea who are listening to these classes, these tapes, Chabad philosophy. And they started to live by it. So she became like the Rebbetzin. Right? And the others would call her and say, what do the rabbis say about this? What does the rabbi say about that? How should we do this? How should we do that? An entire community. Then she got it into her head that she must convert, because she discovered two things she didn't know. One is that the chosen people are not any good person becomes chosen. There is a fixed people. They are the chosen people. Secondly, in reading the Bible, the Israelites are not some extinct tribe. It's the Jewish people. She has to be Jewish. She tried, she called, nobody would talk to her. I mean, if somebody came to you and said, I'm from New Guinea, can I eat in your house? That's where the cannibals were. So nobody took her seriously. She finally decided the right way to convert is to go to Israel. Right? Logical? No. They're so difficult there. Anyway, so she flies to Israel. On the plane, she's thinking, this is really discouraging. Nobody is going to, what am I doing? All doors are closed. What's the point? As she was thinking this, the pilot gets on the PA and he says, ladies and gentlemen, we've just entered Israeli airspace. Welcome home. And those words just took her apart. And she cried like a baby, and she resolved, nothing is going to stop me. I have to become a Jew. Anyway, in Israel, they treated her worse than they did anyplace else. And she left there but absolutely determined. She finally found a Chabad house in Australia, where the rabbi was willing to teach her, and she studied there for a long time. And then the rabbi told her that she needs to immerse in Jewish life, not just read about it and talk about it. So she should come to Brooklyn, to the women's program, this women's school, for 6 months. And if after 6 months she still wants to convert, which is pretty convincing. If after 6 months here you still want to convert, then she should come back to Australia and they'll convert her. So that's why she's here and sitting in the audience. So she says, you said that when Mashiach comes, it means that even the cannibal in the jungle, that's me. What's really amazing, I mean, she's a special person, right? But there's a whole community, and we would never know this. The internet, amazing. Right? So here's the point. If what you're saying is God's truth, then it's understandable and inspiring to a person who knows nothing about Judaism, who does nothing about the history. It's the idea. So the idea that you can serve God, in a sense, He needs you more than you need Him. Who is not inspired by that? Even if your grandmother was a cannibal.
Is that why shalichim go out from Chabad all over the world? I mean, one of the amazing things is you're not located, well, obviously Crown Heights, but everywhere, is to bring this message, to do this work, to prepare the world. Is that the idea the Rebbe had?
That's the idea. Turn the tide. And if we had to sum it up, I mean, there's so much, I'm sure you've heard so much from Rabbi Morozov, but if you had to sum it all up, it all boils down to this. Are you needy or are you needed? The Torah comes to tell us how needed you are, not how needy you are. Nice idea?
Great sermon topic for the rabbi
was
of
just gonna
Beth
say
Shalom.
that.
But I will give proper credit. What you've heard is amazing. To sum up, as Rabbi Friedman has all of the essence of Judaism, the idea of the dignity of man serves God, and that God needs us to prepare the world so that it can be a place that God dwells in, is a magnificent idea. And I think you've hit it. I think you have captured the distinction between Judaism and every other religion. It's not about getting our ticket to heaven. It's about making the world, preparing the world for God to come down to us. And it's a magnificent message.
Now let's apply this for a moment to marriage.
Okay.
A man says to a woman, I want to marry you because you have so much money. There are some honest men.
Yes, there are.
And he said, I want to marry you for your money. What's wrong with that? I mean, if she has money. She has money, he wants the money.
Right.
Perfect. A match made in heaven. See, what's wrong with it is two things. First of all, you say you want to marry me for my money. You don't really want to marry me. You want to marry the money, but you can't think of a ceremony. Like, how do you marry money? So fine, I'll marry you, but you're not really marrying me. Or if a person, I love you for your money. I love you for your looks. I love you for your personality. I love you for your sense of humor. Whatever it is, I love you for this. Then it's this that you love, not me. And sometimes it's love itself. I'm looking for love. Well, then you're going to marry the love, not the person. That's one problem. The second problem is even worse. When I say, I want to marry you for your money, do you hear what I'm telling you? What I'm telling you is, if I could just have the money, right, without having to put up with you, that would be perfect. But I know that's not going to happen, so okay, come along. How insulting is that? I just want your love, not your opinion. All right, I'll put up with your opinion as long as you're giving me the love. But it's really insulting. Right? We know that that's wrong because of Judaism. Imagine saying to God, I will serve you, I will worship you, I'll put on tefillin every day, I'll go to the mikveh, I'll give tzedakah, I'll keep Shabbos. I just want to get to heaven. Do you hear the insult? You're literally saying to God, I just want to get to heaven. Do I have to put up with you two? Okay, fine, you got the keys, right? You hold the keys to heaven, so I got to put up with you. But really, if I could get to heaven without you, it would be much better. That's pretty much Christianity.